My name is Daphne Ippolito, and I'm starting as an assistant professor in the Language Technologies Institute. I'm going to be talking to you about my research, harnessing language models and understanding their limitations. You may have heard of language models before, because they're the technology that is allowing companies and universities to build tools that help you write code, chatbots that can converse convincingly about any number of topics, customized text adventure games, and a whole host of other applications. So how do language models acquire all of the knowledge they need to be able to do such a wide range of tasks? Well, think of this green blob here as a language model. The language model is really a neural network, which outputs probabilities over language. So when the language model is first instantiated, it's stupid. It can't tell the difference between a sequence of gibberish, like what I'm showing on the left, and a great novel, like on the right. To teach the neural network inside of a language model what language is, we do a process called model training. And during model training, we show the model a whole bucket of data. And this data is what we want the model to assign high likelihood to. And so before training, we need to collect this giant bucket of data. And there's a lot of decisions which are made on what should go into this data. For example, we might decide we want to feed the language model GitHub so that it learns how to code. We might decide we want to feed it books so it builds literary understanding. And we might decide we want to feed it Wikipedia so it learns facts about the world. And each time we feed the neural network a document, it updates its shape just a little bit so that it predicts that documents like the one that it just saw are high likelihood. And what we end up with is a model that is very, very good at assigning high likelihood to text that resembles the data it was trained on, and assigning low likelihood to text that does not look like its training data, such as the gibberish here on the left. However, sometimes choices in training data can influence the model in problematic ways. One of these problems can be memorization. So if the language model has seen some sort of private information so much that it perfectly memorizes it and is capable of generating it, or if it memorizes copyrighted information, such as this excerpt from Harry Potter. And it's not always clear what should go into the training data. For example, if we want our language model to know facts about the world, it's generally a good idea to show it Wikipedia. But should we show it extra copies of Wikipedia to make sure it really does know these facts? This is something that a lot of state-of-the-art language models do. However, while this could make the language model knowledgeable about the world, it could also lead to it overfitting to the specific set of facts and language found in Wikipedia. Or what if we show the language model only data from before 2020? A model trained on data from before 2020 will think that this text on the left is really high likelihood, that a global pandemic wipes out most of humanity. But it'll actually think that this text on the right, which is from a real news article about the deaths from COVID-19 in the US, is low likelihood. And this is because there happens to be a science fiction novel from before 2020 that predicts that there's a global pandemic in 2020, but obviously a model trained from before 2020 won't know about COVID-19. And so in my research, I tried to understand the limitations inherent in state-of-the-art language models, especially limitations originating with the contents of the training data. I'm also interested in strategies we can use to make better decisions about what to include in our training data sets so that we can train better models with less data. I'm also interested in ways we can make language models more usable for real-world tasks, incorporating them into complex applications, such as story writing assistants. And it's really important, in my opinion, to think about language models holistically when you're doing evaluation, and not just evaluating them in isolation. So this means evaluating language models as part of applications that real users might be using, rather than just running automatic metrics on the language model itself. And finally, we're increasingly seeing a landscape where the application builders who are building out these applications try to hide the exact details of how they employ language models in their application. And also, language model creators aren't giving us as much information about how exactly they train their model or what data they were training on. All of these details are perceived as secret sauce. But just how secret is it? In my research, I also investigate what details about the underlying language model's implementation and usage can be uncovered via interactions with the interface that is exposed. Thanks so much for listening.